Shalom, I'm going to start this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone where I learned this truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect and shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And then today's video is going to be titled, Being Circumspect in Evil Times, right? Because I'm going to show a few articles in which it is that I have of basically, the things that are ultimately occurring in the news and in this place, America, just, basically showing that a lot of us brothers and sisters, this is the time now more than ever to be very circumspect, right? And I'm actually go to that word circumspect, right? For edification's sake, bear with me. Because this is the time where we need to be very wise, in how we move, how we conversate, how we move around, the things in which it is that we partake in and do. This is the time to really be, being wise, It says it means to live wisely, carefully, and with prudence, paying close attention to one's actions and choices, right? And when you go into that, right, it tells us in Proverbs 22:3 that a prudent man, right, foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished, man. So we don't want to be simple in these times, knowing that there's a bunch of evil that's out here occurring, that we're living in some deadly serious times and people out here really just don't got it. And we're living in an evil world, man. Things are getting more intense day by day. These people are becoming more demonic and more, sinister out here. So it's very important for us believers, true believers in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, to be, circumspect, man, being diligent, being wise in our actions and our thoughts and our behaviors, how we conduct ourselves, how we move around certain people, just being circumspect, man. So I'm gonna actually bring out these articles in which it is that I got, and I'm going to get a few precepts and Lord's willing to be edifying, right? I got this first article. It says a man injected his mother with, you see that word, before beating her to deletion and stuffing her body in a trash can, right? So these are the times in which it is that we're living in, man. Where you got people out here that just doesn't care. They're just doing all types of different things, and we know ultimately Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is the one that's in control of all of these judgments and things in which it is that is occurring, right? And I'm going to go to a precept just to prove that. This is Psalms chapter 68, verse 20, right, in the KJV. And it said, he that is our power is the power of salvation. And unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, the Lord, belong the issues from death, right? So the Lord is ultimately the one that's controlling all of these judgments in which it is that are ultimately going out daily. And that's why we want to be circumspect, man. We got to be wise because, we don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's why you got to be wise of certain areas you're in, or you got to be wise in who you're around or the company that you entertain and things of that nature, man. This is the time to really be in the spirit, man, and walking with wisdom, right? So I'm actually go to this precept as well, right, that I have. This is Ephesians chapter 5, and I'm going to get straight to the point, right? Verse 15 in the KJV, it says, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, right? Verse 16, redeeming the time because the days are evil, right? And we living in some very evil times, man. Like I said before, the people out here, they just don't got it. People are out here just, doing whatever, man, just trying to, inflict harm and danger upon people, all types of craziness and wickedness that's out there lurking, man. So this is the time like never before to be paying attention, being wise, knowing that we're living in very evil times, right? And it says, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. And what the will of the Lord is ultimately to bring forth these judgments, man, that are going out every day continuously. But we know that these evils are only going to get worse and worse, man, right? As it tells you in this precept, this second Ezra chapter 14, verse 16. And it says, for yet greater evils, right, than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. Verse 17, for look how much the world shall be wicked through age, so much the more shall evils, meaning bad times, right, increase upon them that dwell therein. That's talking about the people in this world, man, especially in this place, America, right? So we know that these evils are only going to continue to grow. So us knowing these things, this is the time to really begin closer and closer to the Lord, man. Praying to the Lord that he has mercy upon you in these evil times in which it is that we see fastly approaching it and that are happening, man. Because it's very sinister out here, and people, I'm actually go to that precept as well, because this is what we really see happening, man. with these people out here in this world. This is St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And it said, and because iniquity shall abound, right, meaning sin upon sin, the love of many shall wax cold. And that's what you see happening. A lot of these people are losing their mind. They're bugging out. They don't know what to do. They see everything around them crashing down. This place America is, getting worse and worse day by day. These people seeing everything around them is just collapsing. They don't know what to do. People are losing hope. So, they're bugging out, man. And that's why us knowing this, right? And I'm going to go to that precept. Bear with me. That's a good one. The water that you have by Shimei shot. This is what we got to do, brothers and sisters. Walk with. All right. Bear with me. This is Colossians chapter 4. And I'm going to start at verse 5. It said, walk in wisdom towards them that are without, redeeming the time, right? Verse 6, let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. And that's how we got to move in these times, brothers and sisters. As I said, knowing that the people out here don't have it, that they're bugging out, that they're losing hope, they're losing patience. Everybody out here just in that spirit of crashing out. Because, they see everything around them is ultimately coming to its end. So, we got to be with wisdom, man. We got to, know how to deal with people, know how to talk to people, know how to avoid certain situations, man, knowing the time in which it is that we're living in, man. Right. So I'm going to get back into this article. And I got another one. It says a mom pinned down 5-year-old daughter, pulled out 2 of the victim's bottom front teeth before a family member intervened, right? So like I said, this is the time in which it is that we're living in, that, nobody really has compassion for one another, man. The Lord says that in St. Matthew chapter 10, verse, I'm going to go to that, right? Because this is the time of season that we're living in, brothers and sisters. This is why we see the violence ultimately increasing in this place. This is why we see people doing certain things that you'd be like, why would they do that, man? Because, hey, the Lord is putting a spirit on these people to do these things. As it tells you in Sirach chapter 39, verse 28, that there be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. And the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him, right? Meaning the Heavenly Father that made them, man. So the Lord has spirits that are out here created for vengeance that are getting active in these times, man. And it's only going to continue to get worse, right? This is St. Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. It said, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword, right? Verse 35, it said, for I am come to set a man at variance, right? Meaning at odds against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, right? Verse 36, and a man's foes, right, meaning his enemies, or a woman's foes, right, shall be they of his own household. So this is why you're seeing a lot of these different events take place. That's why you're seeing the woman snatching her daughter's teeth out of her mouth, man, and doing all type of wickedness like that, because, we're in that time now where these people don't care about each other, man. That's how we know that we're ultimately getting to the close of this place, America, being judged, man, and going out of commission, because we know this was the same thing that was happening during the time of Noah, man, before the Lord brought that flood, right? And I'm actually go to a precept to prove that, right? This is Genesis chapter 6. And I'm going to start at verse 5. It said, and Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua saw that the wickedness of man, right, and woman was great in the earth, right? Which is what you see happening now in this place, America, in the world. Sin is very great, man. That's all these people love to do is commit wickedness, being evil, doing things in which it is, that is going against the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Mainly our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, man. 2/3 of you, I should say. And it says, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart, meaning his mind, right, was only evil continually, man. And that's these people mind in this place, man. Only evil. That's why you see these people doing such horrific things out here in this world, man, because that's all these people mind is focused on day in and day out, is on being wicked, man. They don't know any other way but to be evil, man. Right. And that's how we know we're coming to this place man. Right. Through all of the wickedness that's ultimately occurring in this place, So I'm going to get to this other article that I got. just another article on that precept that I read, right? Proving to you that the Lord have come to set a man at variance. It says a man, you see the word down his sister parents while 3 children were still in the house, right? So he basically deleted his sister's parents, which were probably his parents as well. So this just goes to show you the mindset of these people, man. And this is why it's important for us, brothers and sisters, like I said earlier, to be moving with that wisdom, man. And I'm actually go to a precept just touching on that, right? This is St. Matthew chapter 10. And I'm going to go straight to the point. Verse 16 in the KJV, it says, behold, I send you forth as sheep, right? Us true believers in this truth, you men and women that are sincere, right? The Lord have sent us forth as sheep, right? In the midst of wolves, right? In the midst of these people here in the world, because a wolf is a deadly animal, it's ferocious, is, very hateful, very ravenous, very, very, like a dangerous animal, man, basically, and that's these people that we walk past every day in this world, right? That's why we move with wisdom, knowing that all of these people around us, they don't have the same mind and spirit that we have, man, right? So it says, be ye therefore wise as serpents, right? And harmless as doves, right? So we got to be very wise in these times, brothers and sisters, because, these evils are only going to intensify, man, and get worse out here. It ain't going to stop. The Lord is going to continue to amplify these judgments and these things that are happening in this earth, man. It's only going to get worse as time progresses, so this is why it's important for us to be moving with that spirit of wisdom, being wise, as serpents and harmless as doves, right? And I'm actually go to another precept on being wisdom, man. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, and I'm going to start at verse, I'm going to start at this is verse 15, and it says, to think therefore upon her is perfection of wisdom, and whoso watcheth for her shall be quickly without care, right? Verse 16, this is the point. It said, for she goeth about seeking such as are worthy of her, right? This is talking about wisdom, which in the Greek, that word means Sophia, right? Showeth herself favorably unto them in thy ways and meeteth them in every thought. And this is what we should be doing, brothers and sisters, in these times, ultimately, is, allowing that wisdom to meet us at every thought. Knowing that we're living in some very deadly, serious times, knowing that people out here don't have the same mind that we have, and people are not moving in the spirit. These people are walking around in a carnal mind. So we got to be ultimately wise walking around these people and being amongst them, man. We got to be cautious of how we behave, how we speak to these people, just how we do anything, man. We got to allow wisdom to meet us at every thought, man, And that's why we got to be closer and closer to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and that comes from, praying, staying in the spirit more, as it tells us in 1 Thessalonians 5:17 to pray without ceasing, man. So you want to always be in the spirit of praying, begging the Lord to have mercy upon you, watching over you as you go through this dark ass world, and having to deal with these wicked people. We just pray that the Lord continues to have that mercy upon us, man. And that's what we ultimately pray for day in and day out. Once we leave out our houses, wherever we go to, whether it be work, your job, whether you're going to get something to eat, whatever the case may be, you just want to always pray that the Lord can have that protection upon you, man. Because we living in some deadly serious times, man. Like, these people out here are through, man. And we see that more and more each day that progresses, right? That these people are just done in this society, man, But we know ultimately Yahweh Shem Yahushua is the one that's controlling everything, man, And I'm actually go to a precept just to prove that. This is why we ultimately want to be on the good side with the Heavenly Father, man, because we know that he's the one that's in control of both life and death. He's in control of the both good and evil that is occurring in this place, man. And that's why we ultimately want to stay on this side, that he has that mercy upon us, man, so that we do not get caught up in these evil things that are happening out here, man, in this world. This is Isaiah chapter 45. I'm going to start at verse 7, get straight to the point. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace, right, meaning good times, and create evil, meaning bad times. I, the Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, do all these things, man. So this is why it's very important for us in this time to really be, kissing the Son, man, kissing Lord Yahushua. And I'm actually go to that precept, Psalms chapter 2. And I'm going to start at verse 12 in the KJV. And it said, kiss the Son, right? Meaning our Lord Yahushua. This is the time now, right? Seeing as though all of these evils are transpiring in this world to be getting closer and closer to the Lord, right? As I said earlier, via prayer, via reading the scriptures, via going on fasts and doing everything in which it is that you can ultimately do to get closer to the Lord. This is that time now to be doing these things, right? As it tells you in Isaiah 55:6, seek ye the Lord while he may be found, And it said, lest he be angry and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled but a little, right? Because the Lord is about to bring judgment upon this earth, man. That's what a lot of these people don't realize. That's why these evils are continuing to increase. That's why it's only going to continue to get worse as time goes on. These things are not going to stop and just go away, man. It's going to get worse. It's going to keep intensifying, right? So it says, blessed are all they that put their trust in him. And this is what we need to be doing more now than ever in these times, man, putting our trust in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man, because we know that ultimately we're not protected from these judgments if we don't have the Lord on our side, man, right? So we got to be putting all our trust in the Lord, man. As it tells you in this precept right here, I'm going to get that. This is Proverbs chapter 3, and I'm going to get straight to the point. Verse 5, it said, trust in the Lord, right? With all thine heart, meaning your mind, and lean not into thine own understanding, right? Verse 6, and all thy ways acknowledge him, right? That's going back to allowing wisdom to meet you at every thought, right? As I read in Wisdom of Solomon earlier. And he shall direct thy path. So guess what? Long as we continue to be in the spirit and do those things in which it is that is pleasing unto our power to the best of our abilities, he's going to direct our paths, which is going to keep us away from this wickedness, keep us away from this darkness and all of these evil things that are ultimately occurring out here in this world. He's going to protect us from those things long as we continue to allow him to guide our paths, man. Right? And that's why we want to be closer to the Lord in these times, man, because it's only going to get worse, man. These things are not going to stop. It's only going to continue to get more and more out of hand as time goes on. And these people are going to continue to get more demonic, man, and more sinister in their behavior and their manners and their characteristics. We haven't seen nothing yet, man. It's only going to get worse. All right, so I'm actually show this other article that it is that I have just to show you the time in which it is we're living in, man. That these people out here are really through, man. Finished. All right. This is another article. It said a man, you see it and deleted in DeKalb County after an argument over a honey bun, man. Right. So these are the times in which it is we're living in, man, that people are out here, doing harm to each other over 50-cent cakes, man. So that's why it's important for us, brothers and sisters, like I said before, is to just avoid these people, man, if necessary. Of course, we got to go near these people because we got to work next to them. You got to go to them when you're teaching on the highways and hedges. You probably got family members that are like these type of people, so how to deal with people. But we just got to be wise, man, because we're living in some crazy times, man, like very crazy times. So you just got to know how to, deal with people, man, from a spiritual perspective, not in the carnal sense, but in the spiritual perspective, dealing with people from a far distance, man. You really don't want to have people like this in your surroundings, man, no matter who it is, really. Because like I said, these people are only going to pull you down, man. And we're living in a time more now than ever where we can't afford any distractions, man. We can't allow anything to take our mind off of this truth, man, and off of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man, whether that be anybody, So I'm going to actually go into this other article in which it is that I have, right? Just showing you how people out here are finished, right? This is another article. It said a woman's tragic deletion at hands of 15-year-old brother captured on Facebook live stream, man. Right. So that just goes to show you the time and season in which it is that we're living in. As I said earlier about, a man's foe should be the of his own household, man. And this is what we see happening a lot throughout Babylon, man, that a lot of people are just turning upon each other, man. And it's mainly amongst our people, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, man. Right. And that's because the Lord is bringing forth judgment, man. And that's what a lot of these people don't understand. The time and season that we're in is judgment, man. So you're going to have more deletion going out like this and more, the Lord plaguing this place, America, and more people dropping and things like that, man. That's just the time and season that we're in. Right. And I'm going to go to a precept to go to that, just proving that the Lord is the one that's ultimately controlling all of these judgments. Right. That are ultimately occurring. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 39. And it says, see now that I, even I am he, and there is no God with me, right? Not Allah, not Buddha, not Jesus, not Santa Maria, not witchcraft, not none of these other things in which it is that people believe, man. That's not who's in control. Who's in control is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah, as I read earlier in Psalm 68 and verse 20, man, right? And it says, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, right? I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand, man. So ultimately, the Lord is the one that puts the spirit on these people to do his will, man. Nobody's in control of anything, man. The Lord is sitting back playing chess with the whole world right now, man. Nobody has free will or none of those things. So everything in which it is that we ultimately see go out, is being orchestrated by the Lord, and I'm actually go to that precept, right, to further prove that. This is Psalms chapter 78, verse 49, and I'm going to read it in the KJV, right? And it said, who is that he? That's talking about the Heavenly Father, man. Cast upon them, who is to them, the people that he's judging, man. So the Lord put the spirit on that little boy to, do that what he did to his sister, man. He's the one that controlled that. He allowed those puzzles to fall into place for that to occur, And it said he cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, right? And indignation and trouble by sending evil angels among them, man, right? Those spirits that are created for vengeance, man. And they come in the shape of all things. They come in the shape of your family members. They come in the shape of, anybody, man. A mailman, a car, a truck, whatever the Lord wanted to ultimately use to bring forth judgment upon you, man. This is why it's very important for us to fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah, man. Especially in these times, you really want to be fearing the Lord, man, because you don't know what's bound to happen, So I'm actually go to that, bear with me. This is Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. And it said, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right? But fools despise wisdom and instruction, right? And that fools is talking about the 2/3 of our people. Ultimately, they're despising the wisdom and instruction of the men of the Lord that the Lord have set up to warn them of the evils and the times in which it is that are at hand. They're despising these words of wisdom that we're ultimately giving unto them, man. And that's ultimately because they don't fear the Lord, man. And you see that through these people's behaviors, how they act, how they talk, how they speak, how wicked they are, how they love to be evil and sinister. You see these things and you can know that our people does not fear the Lord, man. And that's ultimately why the Lord is going to continue to, like I said earlier, amplify these judgments, man. And, these evils are only going to get worse and worse. But us brothers and sisters, knowing this time in which it is that we're living in, we want to be seeking the Lord more now than ever, man. Praying that he ultimately can have that mercy upon us, in these times that are coming and that are at hands right now, where you see all of these evils ultimately increasing and intensifying in this world, man, especially in this place, America, man, So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing to be edifying. We was all over the place today in this video, but Lord's willing the point was made and it be edifying. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.